The provincial environment minister has given the big thumbs up with conditions, but the big wind-to-energy to hydrogen project on Newfoundland's west coast still has opponents, especially among those who would have to live among the wind turbines. Codroy Valley United is the voice for some of those people. They say they're standing firm against WorldEnergyGH2 and its big plans. Earlier today, I spoke with a member of the group, Lena Sampson. Lena, I think a lot of people feel like with the environmental assessment process completed, the WorldEnergyGH2 project is a go, and that's that. But obviously the people with Codroy Valley United, like yourself, you're not giving up the fight.
No, absolutely not. It's never a done deal. There's always areas that need to be in check, especially when it comes to a process as what should be more stringent than the EIS process that we're seeing here in Newfoundland. When it comes to this entire process, there are a number of issues. It almost seems like it's being made up as you go. The moratorium on wind energy had gotten lifted, and then the EIS guidelines were developed, and then the EIS process came through. And from what we have seen in reviewing the EIS, there's a lot of red flags when it comes to what this project has put forth to the government.
Your press release talks about unacceptable risks and other missteps that you see in the EIS process. Can you outline some of that for us?
Yes, absolutely. When it comes to studies that have been done, there's outdated studies when it comes to the flooding, when it comes to the birding, specifically when it relates to blasting. There's no noise or vibration testing that has been done to ascertain what kind of impact that's going to have on our community. I specifically brought that up in one of the meetings that World Energy had out here about a week before the deadline for the submission on the EIS comments was due, and they admitted that, yes, they had omitted the study, and it should be done for blasting. But it also needs to be done for the operation of these wind turbines, because being located in a valley in the way that the acoustics travel through valleys, the noise resonance, it does have an impact, and it will have an impact on our community. So, the studies in themselves aren't sufficient. When it comes to the flood risks, they've specifically used a study that was over 20 years old. They have to do the updated studies. They have to do the Moose studies, which all these things are saying they're going to do in 2024, this year, this fall. And having the EIS approved before any of these studies done is unacceptable.
And you also point out that the Codroy Valley site for this project wasn't part of the initial environmental assessment registration that the company made. And you feel like it was kind of added abruptly and sort of rushed through, right?
Yes, absolutely. When I first got wind of this project back in May of 2023, I had pulled up the documents for it, and the environmental assessment registration, it was only discussing Port-au-Port and Stephenville, the Stephenville hydrogen ammonia plant. But there was absolutely nothing outlining that Codroy Valley was going to be a part of it. And then the EIS come out, and then we were just merely stipulated as a map. It was just a map showing the Anglo Mountains and the location where the turbines were going to be, and a brief mention of it, but no details. There was no study, no concrete documentation, to the level that they were doing in Port-au-Port. And to this date, there is nothing. The studies are outdated. Everything is minimal. The mitigations and the risks are minimal. They haven't really discussed what the impacts are going to be on the community. And a prime example of that is when I brought up one of the impacts of inserting the concrete barriers, the bases to these turbines on our mountains. They had shown the bases as 5 meters wide. And I specifically asked, I said, is that the entire base that will encompass these 656-foot turbines? And then they continued to reiterate that there would be, it depends on the size of the turbine, the blade sweep, all this other information. they manipulated the question to minimize the impacts on the community, making people feel that it was going to be a lesser impact when really it's quadruple the size. The bases of the turbines that's actually hidden in the ground is almost quadruple the size of what's actually exposed on the top.
So you have other examples of this as well. So have you communicated any of these complaints or any of these issues that you have to the Environment Department or the Minister?
We have documented all of our concerns. Everything that we have observed as an issue has been written up in a submission for the EIS comments session. So we have put it forth to the government. Now, we haven't gotten any concrete responses from them, just like your email notification saying we've received the email, but we haven't gotten any response from the government with respect to anything that we have submitted.
What's the mood like among people you know in the Codroy Valley and people you see day to day? Do people feel like this is still something that they want to keep up the fight on, or is there a certain amount of resignation setting in that this is starting to feel inevitable?
I feel that there are a lot of people that are almost in shock that it's actually been approved, but there are other people, I guess, because the government approved it, that they feel like it's a done deal. So some people are thinking that, there's really not much point. Once the government agrees on something, then that's it. It is what it is. You can't really do anything. But in this case, I really think that people need to speak up and speak out about this. If you have concerns, it needs to be vocalized. It's not a done deal. Simply because the government has placed about 58, 60 conditions on World Energy. They have to meet those conditions before they can put a bucket in the ground, essentially. So these things need to be taken care of. So it's up to World Energy whether or not they're going to be able to accomplish that. The only question is whether or not their government is going to ensure that those conditions are met and how stringent they're going to be with those conditions.
So your conversation now and your main focus is on dealing with government more so than dealing with WorldEnergyGH2?
Yes, essentially, because the government, the government are the ones that hold the key to this, and the government are supposed to be the voice of the people. And we're not being listened to. We're not being heard. There are a number of people across this province who have been extremely vocal about this issue, and I have extreme concern about the magnitude of the impacts of this project. This is a project that has never been done before in the history of windmills. So comparing it to something like Ramia it's not logical because there is no comparison. So yes, it's the government that we need to plea to because they're the one that's ultimately given the green light.
Lena, thanks very much for talking to us about this today.
Okay, thank you so much, Jamie.
That is Lena Sampson. She's with the group Codroy Valley United.